Bolivia got its name from the independence fighter Simon Bolivar. The country got independence from the Spanish rule in 1825. Bolivia is located in central South America, southwest of Brazil. The climate varies but is slightly humid, and the terrain is mostly mountainous. Bolivia is not a very wealthy country with a GDP per capita of $5,000. The majority of its income comes from agriculture and mining, which makes up 57.4% of the country's workforce.
During the 1800s, Bolivia found their first source of ores. They became the second wealthiest country because of the silver deposits they found. Bolivia exported their ores to Europe. This source of ore helped Europe along during the Industrial Revolution. Around 1825, Bolivia was claiming land, but in this process they lost some Pacific territory. The Pacific territory could have been Bolivia's mining fix, but they lost the land to Chile and Peru. Bolivia was threatened by Chile and Peru because they were jealous of Bolivia's large silver mines. During this time, major changes in the government were happening. For example, in 1880, two political parties were formed. Both parties were from the upper class, and they were called the Conservative Party and the Liberal Party. Around this time, Bolivia was starting to form a depressed economy, because in the past, Bolivia's only source of income was mining. So, they overworked their mines in order to suffice their needs. Although Bolivia was rich, the money did not flow down to the native population, who were the suppliers for the labor working in the mines.
In the late 1900s, the silver prices plummeted to the ground, so the government of Bolivia sold the mines to private corporations. Now there are not many mining sites because the mines have been overworked. One of those sites is the mountain represented on Bolivia's national flag. This mountain was the main source of Bolivia's silver ore and is located in the Andes. It is riddled with mine shafts and tunnels. The mountain is so extensively cluttered with tunnels that it has started to lose support. Part of this mountain has already started to collapse. The government is worried that they have pushed the mountain too far. With about 1,500 miners working in the weakest section, the death toll could be severely high. As an effect to help this situation, the government wants to relocate some of the workers to different mines. Consequently, this will cause these miners to be separated from their families and their homes. Plus, other mines don't get paid as much as the ones they are currently working in, so moving would take a toll on their already small income. Another big problem besides the risk of mine collapsing is bad working conditions. People working in Bolivian mines are at an extremely high risk of getting silicosis, an uncurable lung disease common to miners who breathe in dust. Doctors have told them to stop working because it will only make it worse, but they say they have to keep up the work to support their families. On top of that, miners only have shovels, wheelbarrows, and headlamps to do their jobs. Even worse, they have to haul works at high and low altitudes. They collect the rocks in their wheelbarrows, then push them along small tunnels that in some areas are only 4 feet high.
Another mining site that has been overworked is the mines of Cerro Rico. The mines in Cerro Rico are quite original because they are owned almost entirely by cooperatives. They extract small quantities of minerals from old, abandoned mine shafts. The relationship between cooperatives, workers, and the private businesses have been encouraged both by a series of laws passed in the 19th and 20th century. The willingness of the government not to tax the cooperatives and not to point the finger out at the bad labor and environmental practices has allowed the cooperatives to gain extreme amounts of power. Bolivia has environmental policies which make their motives questionable. Some people want to ask how these cooperatives have gotten power over the government. The unsatisfactory working conditions are very similar between the Cerro Rico mines and the Andes mines. Miners in Cerro Rico chew cocoa to minimize the effects of hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. It is common for relatives of mine workers to work as a guard at the entrance of a mine to scrape up a little extra money on the side.
There are so many connections from the past and now. For example, Bolivia is still an economically depressed country. This is because they have overworked their mining sites and have not expanded their mining land. This means that Bolivia won't be producing the same amount of silver and tin. Because of this problem, Bolivia has not been able to raise their income. Another difference is that government used to own the mines, but now they are mainly controlled by corporations. Because the corporations have control over most of the mines, the corporations are getting more power and taking over Bolivia's mining industry. In conclusion, Bolivia's mining and their income has changed over hundreds of years.
Mine the precious gems of your mind.